Again, this is Old Man PHP. I create PHP video tutorials for the old guy who wants to learn a new skill and compete with the young crowd. This is my fourth video and I want to discuss more functions. As I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, the real power of PHP is its function. There are about 1,000 built-in functions. In addition, you can create your own custom functions. You have seen already since video 2. Just in case you haven't watched video 2 and 3, a function is a block of statements that can be used repeatedly. It will not execute automatically with a page load. You execute them by invoking them, calling them. You must begin a function name with a letter. It can contain numbers and underscores. Some of the things that I showed you already is that you can pass values to your functions. You can set default values. You can define parameter types, and it returns data from where the function was called. And if you have forgotten, there's different types of function: type parameter, return type, variable scope, anonymous functions, and variadic function. Again, a function is a block of statements that can be used repeatedly in a script or application. A function will take parameters, do some calculation, and return the results. It does not execute automatically when your page loads. It executes when you invoke your function. That is how it works. Remember, that parameter or what is declared in a function, and what you pass into the invocation is called arguments. Now, the function will use the parameters that you pass to it. We are using the same HTML file called PHP test PHP, which is right here. Remember, right here. So let's create a function to bring back, jog your memory. I'm going to call this $B, parentheses, same brace. That's where all your commands go. We're gonna add var dump so we can we're gonna say $A because we want to see both of them. $B semicolon. Now we're going to return the results because we add both of those parameters together. $A plus $B semicolon. Now we're going to echo it, okay? I'm going to echo it to, we're going to assign the function invocation into a variable, so we'll call that $add a num my func. We're going to add 25. We're going to send 25. 25 will go to A. 25 will go to B. Let's add that semicolon and let's echo it out. Let's do a $add a num. You'll notice that I have put a variable within the two double quotes. We're going to talk about this a little later. But what this does is that with the double quotes, you're going to see the actual, it interprets the variable for you. If I did this, it would not. It would do something. Let me see. See, it'll give you what the actual variable name is. That's it. But by doing this, it interprets it for you. So let's 50. See, Now this var dump gave me the integer 25, integer 25. Remember we talked about that before. We returned the results, which we added both of these together, and that's what this is. Again, the opening curve brace indicates the beginning of a function, and this is the closing of a function. You do that also for the for loops and logical operators. Okay, so and of course you call this here. I mean, you can just say this if you want to. Let's put it right here. Then which way I go? Of course, you've seen this already, right? 50-50. Okay, oh yeah, because I did it again. That's why. All right. Now, with the myfunct, right now we have this behind it, but you can actually do this. You can call this up, put it over here. Let's get rid of that. And it'll work because I know that it goes so fast that by the time you did this, it's already here in the interpreter, so it'll do this for you real quick. But I prefer to put the invocation with the arguments right after the actual function was declared, which is this. I prefer that. Makes sense, right? I mean, you declare a function, you see it, and then just call it instead of saying calling it and then seeing it afterwards. Now remember, you can also add a function within the inner function, you know, but in this, I'm sorry, I meant to say within the outer function. So you can kind of say, okay, this is a function. Let's call let's say, well, we can kind of keep that there, doesn't matter. Let's do function, let's call it inner func. Create erase if I forget that. Let's echo something here, so let's do echo, let's do this. This is the inner function. Semicolon, boom, that's it. We can keep this here. I mean, doesn't really matter. We could do, we can call, let's see, we got this one, we got that first call. Let's say I wanted to call this function the inner function. Let's put it over here. Let's save it after your semicolon. And let's run it. Boom, it gave me an error. It's because it's going to look at this and it'll say, wait a minute, where is it? Where's this function? I don't see it. But you see it over here, but it won't work. The only way this is going to work if you invoke this function. Once it does that, of course it's going to run all this, and it's going to create another function for you. Of course it's not, it's echoing, so you can just take this out. I mean, this one over here. Let's add br. Boom, it did it. See, this function was called the inner function only because this function ran. So you have to invoke this. This is how that works. I also mentioned in another video that you can use the pipe. So for instance, if you had, let's take this out. Okay, let's take this crap out of here, because we're not gonna, it's not gonna work. And then let's add it. Let's say echo aid, my func. I'm gonna pass in 5,10. See, in this situation, you're gonna echo this. You've seen this. This is a normal standard function. You're calling it. You're passing arguments to the parameter, and then you're returning the results, right? Like this, 15. But you can also say, hey, I want this to be an integer and a float. See, in this situation, we can make this. We call this type hinting. So what we do is we can go like this, and we're telling explicitly that these two parameters are going to be integers. You're going to be getting integers. So when you run it, get no problem, right? You can also put it in the outside. I mean, really, you can go like this. I don't know, and just say this, and it'll work. But with the pipe, let's take this out. But with the pipe, you can say, hey, I just want this to also be a float if you want to. So you could say, hey, let me go /float. That's not a pipe. This is a pipe. We're going to put a pipe, and then we're going to say float. And what happens is when you do this, it's not going to work. Because, see, if I put in 5.5 or 55.5 and 10, this will call this, and it'll put this one on that first one. But it's going to say it could either be an integer or it could either be a float. And right now it's a float, it's going to do the float. The same thing with this one. Right now it's going to do the integer, but for some reason I can't use this because I'm using version 7 of PHP. This came about at version 8. And when I went to check my production server, which also ran 7, it would work. That's why I don't use it when I'm doing the local stuff at home. If I was in on a company doing this stuff and they have the 8, it'll work. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also assign, by the way, this whole float thing, this thing is also called union type, just in case. All right, let's save, as I mentioned earlier, you can add an assign statement. So let's take this out, right? Let's run this. Let's say 65.5. Let's take this out and let's make it 5. 15. So basically, if for some reason you went like this, you were like forgot, and you sent this over, you get an error because it says, wait a minute, you're calling me, but there's something in here that's missing. Well, what you could do is you can put an assign statement and assign a variable, and it'll become a default. So let's say 10. Let's do 20, so you know. When you assign it, boom, it does it. Is that wonderful? It is great. It is really great. Now, in the past video, we used the echo command, like to print the results, like we've been doing like this, echo. But we could also use a thing called print. Right now, you can say print, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Print, like this, and it'll work. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. This chair is killing my back. Okay, well, we can use a more formatted way to print the results by using a printf. So if we did like, I don't know, let's change this to a 10. Yeah. Let's see. Let's make this. you can make this into a D. Forget it, like sort of like if you do it like this, right? That will work, right? So basically, just kind of doing it in here. You're just initializing it to 0, and then you're just adding them together afterwards. So we have done that, right? But we can print it out using a command that formats the results into a string, and that's what the printf does. Printf, just like that. So we could put this in parentheses. Let's take this whole thing out, and let's say, ooh, let's get this out too. So we say parentheses, right? And we can add in, let's say 5 plus 4 equals ampersand D. Let's do some page line breaks. And now we're here. Oh, excuse me. Forgot we need to put that inside. These are strings, so we need to put that in there. There you go. So then on the other one, you're gonna call this function. So let's take this out and stick it right in here. Okay, so now you're gonna pass in 5, 8, right? And now what happens is, let's take this out because you ain't gonna need that. Now the printf will get, you could create a string, and then you can add your function, the one that you're going to be creating. Now this information is going to have to go somewhere, right? And what happens is, by creating this %D sign, that's actually, this D stands for decimal number. It's going to be a decimal number. This is like a placeholder. You see that in the more advanced PHP stuff, but this is a placeholder, right? So, you know, it's ASCII information, characters. We also have it for, I mean, we got, let me see, we got ampersand C, we got ampersand F, we got ampersand S, placeholder for like strings, for floating point, and for ASCII character. That's what you use that for. It's just a formatted placeholder for the actual values. That is what that is. So if we run it, it'll give it to you. See? It'll give it to you. Okay, so in the more we're going to be more advanced with this later in the more later videos. But yeah, bear with me, okay? Now, I mentioned earlier that the functions are by default passed by values, right? So let's clean this up a bit, and let's create another function. And we're going to use the same type of thing that I used in another video. $change. Ooh, sorry, I take that back. Say my semicolon. And then what we're going to do within this function, we definitely want to pass on a number. So we're going to say $change equals 5. No, that's okay. Any number, okay? Now what you want to do is you want to call this guy. So you're gonna say change $, let me semicolon, this guy, because you're gonna send, oops, sorry, it's called change me. You're gonna run this function. You're gonna send this. I mean, I could have called this anything. I mean, I could have called this 2, 2, 3. I could have called change later, and then keep that like that. Doesn't matter, because this is completely, even though it has the same names, this is completely different. This is a parameter. This is an argument. Okay. Now, so what we could do is what I'm gonna do here. Let's do a var dump. Var dumps are great because you can always check what the structure of your variable is. It will tell you if it's a string, integer. Okay, it floats. You know, it's great stuff. So let's say we take this parameter. Let's stick that sucker right in there, right? And I don't know what it. Okay, let's say it's going to pass this, going to run this, it's going to do that. There you go. Integer 5. It's an integer and it's 5. So if I want to, let's change it. Let's change it inside. What I say is change plus plus. You're adding a number 1 to the change. It's like having this. This is like having it. We're going to talk about that later, but this is what this is. It goes like this, and you say plus 1. That is what it is, all right? Let's go to the equal sign. So what happens is you're going to take this, right, change them, and you're going to say, oh, let's say you put in 5 plus 1 equals to 6, and now you're going to apply, and you're going to echo that 6, right? So you do something like echo dollar change. That's about it. It'll do it for you. See, 7. The reason why it's 7 because I said, oh, this is 6, this is 5, 6, and let's leave it. Why not? It's 7, right? So what happens is you go, you want now. Right now, you're doing this. What is this? Pass by value. So if I wanted to see, let's just copy this guy. Use this guy for down here. And then you go like this, boom, and tell, let's give it a space. Echo line breaks. Let's put a little space there. So you go like this, and it runs it. See, 7, 7, but it's still 5 because this is in the this is at the outer scope. This stuff here, it's in the inner scope. This command is actually sitting inside the inside scope of this function. But right, so you want to print it out. Let's go like this, and it's telling you, okay, let's see what it is. Oh, it's still 5. Yes, you changed it within the function, but it's still 5 because you're using this stuff here, which takes this. This is the actual variable that it's using, not this variable. This is only for the reason why you're seeing it here, 7, because I'm telling you, you're echoing it out. Now, if I wanted to change this 7 in here into the dump, then instead of using this one, it'll use the one inside. It'll use the one inside. So by doing that, you just have to add a ampersand sign. And this is what indicates to the interpreter that we're going to reference the inner variable scope from the outer scope, right? So inner scope, and you know, reference it in the outer scope. So we're going to continue by putting this guy, this symbol. And then when you run it, let's make sure everything is incorrect. Okay. Boom, see? This guy here use this. See? 7, 7. If you take it out, it'll be like a normal function. 5, 5. Isn't that great? Now let's continue. You can pass multiple values, arguments, to the function, and on the function side you can add 3 periods. They call them sprat. It's something like this. I'll tell you what, why don't we let's clean this out. A splat is something like this. 1, 2, 3. That's what a splat is. So let's say if you wanted to, it's an operator, of course, a splat operator. And then what you do is you're gonna create a function, right? Let's create a function right now. Let's create a function. We're gonna say get sum, and we're gonna add the splat 1, 2, 3. Then we're gonna add a variable. We're gonna call it nums. Let's do the bracket. And let's say within there, we're going to say sum equals 0. We want to initialize sum into 0. And then we're going to use a loop to add the values together. So we're going to use the for each because you're reading this. The for each works well with the arrays. It reads your arrays. So you could go like that. We're going to discuss that in more detail later on. So you say dollar. Did I put the dollar in there? Num, right? And you're going to class dollar NM. Let me just say NM. Excuse me, guys. I need to get myself comfortable here for a second. Okay. So now that you have that, remember I told you that you can use brackets because they all have their own block of code that you want to use to loop. So right now we're going to say dollar sum plus equals to dollar M. And semicolon, that's it. Right? So then you want to return that information. So let's return it. Let's say return dollar sum. Oh, yes. We're returning it, right? Now, right now, we're not calling it, we're not doing anything. It's kind of sitting there. So if I go like this, you'll see what I mean. It's doing nothing, right? So right now, you're returning this. So what happens is when you call this guy, you're going to call him with multiple values. And once you call it with the multiple values, it's going to go in. It's going to say, oh, listen, it's going to have multiple value. This tells the function that multiple values are coming at the same time. And then you're going to have a variable next to it like this. And this will tell the function, hey, this will be an array. You're going to take that multiple values and you're going to put it in an array. Then you're going to, of course, you could do this, which is simple because you're using this. Make sure you assign a 0 just to initialize it, right? And then the for each will read in arrays. It will read an array right here. And then, of course, you want to make this into, let's say you had this like a whole bunch of big. Now you want to keep adding that over and over. So you want to make it shorter. So this is what you say as dollar variable. It's just a shorter name. You're taking this name and making it shorter. Now, as he goes for each, he's going to go to the first array, 0 index, and it's going to take that first one, and it's going to add it into this. Now, you could have done this, but by the time he reaches the last variable, it's always going to be that number. No matter how many times you do it, it will always print that last number. But we don't want that. We want to print the first one, then we want to print the second one, we want to print the third one. So you add that. We're going to go more details later. Okay, so now we have this, right? Now we want to call it. Let's use the printf command again. We're going to say that sum equals, and we're going to use the actual placeholder again. I'm going to format that guy, right? Let's add this so we can jump over. Okay, equals to this. Let's do this. And now we're going to call it, right? So we're going to say get sum. Let's give it parentheses right there. And we're going to say within the, don't forget, this is a command, so you got to make sure semicolon. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to add all those things together within here, and then it's going to return the results each time. Okay, so let's do this. And let's close it, and boom, sum equal 15. See how that works? Isn't it fantastic? In another video, we had this where you can actually run in a, let's see, something like this, dollar sum array, because it is an array, sum, right? And then you're going to put the parentheses, and then you're going to say this guy. And you're going to do this. Same thing, see? Sum 15. It did it for you. You always in a habit. You know what you do when you learn the PHP? You can do it like the way you want, how I did it, with the for each loop, make it bigger. Somebody's car is going nuts up there. So, or you can just look into the more advanced functions. Remember, it has 1,000 built-in functions that you can use, and this is one of them for an array. And as I explained earlier, the $D and the $C for ASCII characters, and the percent sign F for float, and B for binary, and S for strings, and there's others. Those are used as placeholders. You can make a whole line. I mean, this can be huge. That takes several lines, as long as your calculation matches up to what you're trying to send back. Now, you can return multiple values by using an array, like we talked about here, right? So let's clean this guy up. Let's do a function. Let's call it my calculate, and we're going to calculate x $y. I should have just used A and B, but I just got tired of it. And then we're gonna, of course, this is what all your commands go. So we're gonna return. See, remember I told you can return functions. You can return, but you can also return, and you can return variables. You can return integers. You can return strings, but you can also return arrays. So you say array. We're going to talk about arrays in another video more extensively. So right now, let's just put this in. Let's keep it down here. We're going to say that $x plus $y, comma. Remember, you're adding this to an array, so you can, it could be just one comma and this, but no, we want to add these. The results from this will be in an array. Okay, so now in this particular case, we want to use x minus $y, because we also want to subtract this. So whatever it is, so if you put in 5 and 10, this will be 5, right? If you put 5 and 10, this will be 15. And this is how you send it. Now remember, this is a command, so of course you forget to put that semicolon in there. Let's put a little space there so you can read it better. All right, now let's call it up. So when you're going to add, two arguments to it, right? We're going to use a list command. So we're going to use a list function called list, right? And I'm going to assign the two values, the two arguments to $. So we're going to say list, and in parentheses, don't forget the semicolon. Let's move this over like this. Now we're going to say $sum, comma, difference. That would be cool. Excuse me. And then we're gonna within this list, we're gonna assign this function. See how versatile this thing is? I love PHP. Let's do 5 comma 4. Let's measure it back. There you go. That's it. What happens is in this situation, let me see. In this situation, you're assigning, this is a function that PHP has, right, to create a list. And what you do is you're assigning the results of this array into this list. So when you echo it, let's echo adding, I'm going to say adding both dollar. Remember, we're using the double quotes, so it's okay. You can add the variable right in it. Say sum. Let's do a blind break. And don't forget that semicolon, right? And let's do another one. Add subtracting from both. What do we call it? Differences. Next time on my thing, I'm going to have all my examples so I don't have to type all the time. Okay, so let's do, let me know in the comments if you want me to do it the way I'm doing it, or it's okay if I could put all my examples in one file and I just comment out, and then when I'm ready to do the one example, I'll uncomment and then I'll do the next one. I'll do the same. So let me know. Okay, so right now, here's a list, right? So this is a list. It's a good one. Let's see what we got here. Let's save it. Boom. There you go. Maybe I should just add that. Put a space in between. Yeah, let's add another one so it'll jump down a little bit. There you go. See, in this, you're echoing out this in the actual variable that's in the list function. Here, you're displaying another variable with the difference right here. And you're adding your function into this list variable, because it looks at this, it runs this, it returns this, and this information that's over here, this information is all will end up in here. This information that's here will end up in here. Isn't that great? How versatile it is. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Hey, let me give you another example. Let's say we were doing dollar. I could have just kept the other ones. Let's change it up. Let's say we got an array, and then we called it dog, cat, horses, horse. Yeah, let's keep it that way. Let's keep it simple. Now I want to create a list. Remember we said that we could use list $a. Let's put a little space here, and then put another one. There's a reason why I'm doing this. I'll explain in a second. Now we're gonna use my AR. Semicolon. This will add. Let's do that. Let's echo this. Echo. Guys, remember, man, this stuff is easy. Remember, we have experience in life. We're very intelligent. You're gonna pick this up in no time. You're gonna create smaller projects, and that's the only way to really learn, is to do projects after projects. But first, you have to learn the basic stuff, which is what I'm doing here. So here, I Let's see. Here I am with $A and $C. Isn't that stupid though? So when you run this, maybe I should have put a line break. It's alright. Oop, undefined Y. Undefined list. Did I misspell it? Oh yes, I did. Misspelled it. Double R. Boom. Here I am with dog and horse. Now I said this is horse. I said, what happened to the cat? Well, you can add that. See how you put the space here? Isn't that wonderful? It still took A and made that into a dog. It avoided the second one because it's an array, right? And then it took the number, the last one, which is horse, and this is what you're seeing here. But if I wanted to add the $A, I could do it. The $B, right? Which is okay. That says, and how about we do, but I also have a $B. There you go. See if I went like this, boom. See? Look how wonderful this is. Look at all these fantastic PHP functions, these built-in ones. You could have, instead of using lists, we could have built it up even more, but then before you know, you got like multiple lines just to do one thing. So always take advantage of the built-in functions. We also have a thing called map, when you have an array with maps, right? So let's erase this stuff here and let's create a function. Now, we're going to use the array underscore map, right? I'm going to show you in a minute. Before we do this, let's say array underscore map. See? We're going to use this. It sends each value of an array to a function. It really is. The array map combines your function with the list of values that you also send it, because you're going to send the name of the function and you're going to send the list that that function is going to be using. Let me show you. So we're going to say function my, let's do a multiplication, my mult maybe, and then we're going to say $x, right? Of course, this is a function. Don't forget the bracket, the curly brackets, or the brace, that's what they call it really. And then we're going to return $x, and we're going to times it because you did call it multiple. And you're going to time it to itself. I know you're wondering, well, how could that, how's that? Okay, so then we're gonna do an add one. Let's do a function my add, and we're gonna call it $x, right? Don't forget the curly brace, and we're gonna return $x plus $x. There you go. Yeah. Get back over there. Now we're going to call it. But before we calling it, we're going to create a list. Remember the list? So we're going to say, we're going to call it a variable list. Sorry, we're going to call it a list, but it's variable, not the actual of it. And then we're going to say, we're going to assign, we're going to talk about this, how you assign an array, how you create arrays. But we're going to assign it. This is the better way. I like doing it this way. I mean, you could do this too, believe it or not. List, and then say 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. It's more I call it the old-fashioned way, but I prefer this one. This becomes an array. But doing the brace like this, that's an array too. We're just kind of doing it like this. Now we're going to run the multiple lists. right? We're going to assign that to multiple. So we're going to say add multi list, let's call it, and we're going to say array. I want you to map this. I want you to map both of those. And then we're going to say my moat. What did I call it? My moat, right? And dollar list. Wait a minute. Oh, I made that into a comment, which I'm going to be talking in the next video. Semicolon. See what I mean? It's too much typing. How about if I just kind of like do this? That's why I prefer to create all my examples and then test them out, and then when we're ready to, I just go from one example to the other instead of doing all this typing. Okay, we're gonna use this one now. We're gonna call the add one. So we're gonna name this add, and we're gonna call this. What did I call it? Add. Now this is what's going on here. We created a function, right? Which you're gonna send one value. This is your parameters, and you're gonna return that parameter, but you're gonna say I want to return that value and times it to itself. Then you're gonna do the same thing with the add. You're gonna say that value and add that value, add itself. So if you're adding 1, you should see 2, that kind of thing. All right, now it's not doing anything really. Let's see. Syntax, where is the syntax? Where did I? It's something. Oh, there you go. You guys must have caught it already. All right, it's not doing anything, right? So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna print it. We're gonna say print R. Now this is a function that will print what is in an array. You'll see what I mean. If I go like this and say this guy, put it in here, right? And it'll print it out. See? It'll print an array. Remember, it's index, right? It always starts with 0. That's your first spot. Then it does 1, and then it does 2 and 3 and so on. So, right? So now I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it with the add. So we're going to call this add. All right, so let's do echo. Oops, wrong place. See? Semicolon. Boom. Now see? It took the first one, which is that one, right? And 1 you multiply by 1 is 1, you multiply by it is 4, you multiply it is 5. And in this situation, it's like you adding. Add that, it becomes 2, it becomes 2, and then it becomes a 6, and then it becomes an 8. Multiplication, and then this there. But now you're looking at it and saying, man, this is hard to see. Can we format it so we can see it better? Yes, we can. So by doing this, echo, the pre is another command in HTML that tells you that the way you're typing things up like a sentence, keep it like that. Don't give it that any special formatting. Just keep it the way it is. That's what pre-formatting is. That's what that does. How about we just put it together? Just go like this, echo. But you also have to, guys, if you opened it up, you have to close it up. And we'll do that like this. So when you type it, what did I do wrong here? You echo this stuff. It should have worked. Maybe don't. Oh, dummy. Should be here. Let's put this over here. Not over here. Let's take this out. Sorry about that, guys. Sometimes somebody's coming in and they're gonna slam the door. See how it's formatted well? Easier to see. You can do the same thing here. There he goes. So I apologize for that. And as you can see, it formatted nicely, easier to read. Now we have another one, that reduces the actual number of array to a single value using a callback. So let's do I don't know, let's get rid of this. It's making it very difficult for me to create my videos with the constant. Okay, right now we're gonna do multiply. Remember the plus sign? Same idea. The B, and we're gonna return $A. So there's your one symbol. Okay, now we're gonna add a list to it. We're gonna say dollar. We're gonna say, remember the array that we create? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're gonna create another array. We're gonna call it res, or anything you want. Reduce. And this is also an PHP is one of the built-in functions, right, for an array. And that's what I call it. Now within here, what I want to do is I want to add this. I want to add this guy. The actual list is always on the first one, and then we're going to add the actual the actual function which we're going to put here. Then we're going to add a number 1, which tells you that it's just that one time, like multiplying by 1. And that's it. And now we're going to echo it. I'll explain in a second. Let me just get there before these ladies show up. Alright, here we go. So you run it. Okay, there's a problem. Let's see what we got here. We do the, oops, of course. Let's do, let's call it an A, dollar, B, because I did call the A and B right here. Duh. And that should work right here. See? 20. And do what I called it. My boat. Okay. This needs to be in a single quote right here. There you go. There you go, 120. See, what happens is you created a function, right? And you're going to take those two variable parameters. You're going to multiply it to itself, right? And you're going to return the results. But it's only one, like this, one single. So the list you created, which is an array. So now you're telling it, I want you to reduce this array. I want you to reduce this list using this array, using 1 as a the one parameter you see is optional, and it actually refers to the value that you will send to the function. So after the function multiply itself, it will multiply by that number. Get it? So when it multiplies by itself, it'll say 1 and it'll multiply by that number, and this is why you get 120. If I wanted to like make this a 2, because I wanted, after I had done this, I also want to multiply by 2. In other words, let's say if you have 120, you should see 240, basically. See, 240. And that's how that works. The third option is just it's an optional parameter, but I like to always add it anyway. Well, we reached the end, and if you enjoyed this video and you learn more about what functions are, and I will be talking more about this function because throughout the whole course you will be using different functions, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. This will help grow my channel. And on my next video, I will talk more about comments. Until next time, a good night.